Hello, welcome back to Oddities with Fur. Lupus. When you hear that word, do you know what it means? Most people don't. This episode is about my lupus diagnosis and wanting to raise awareness about lupus, wanting to talk to other people out there who have it, hear their experiences, and just kind of share with you what mine have been, because the journey was very long and I had so many misdiagnoses before finally being diagnosed. So I feel like sharing my experiences could possibly help some other people. And obviously I don't want to start panic and have people thinking, oh no, could I have lupus? But if there are things that you've been struggling with for a very long time and a lot of unanswered questions by medical doctors, I think that experience is really common. And so this could be you. Also, maybe you have already been diagnosed with lupus. If so, I'm sorry. You are my sibling and we're in this together. And I think we can share tips and tricks on how to cope and stay as healthy as possible. So at the very end of the video, I'm going to share with you some resources that I have found over my 6 years since being diagnosed to be the best sources of real information, really helpful information, and cutting through the BS that a lot of people spew about lupus and autoimmune diseases. So I have, obviously I'm autistic and ADHD as well as OCD. And a lot of people who are neurodivergent, excuse me, also have autoimmune diseases. The two go hand in hand very often. And there's a lot of theories about that. But so, and the other thing is with lupus, most people with lupus have other autoimmune diseases as well. So, and that can happen with families too, with the genetics. So you might not have anybody in your family with lupus, and you might get diagnosed with lupus, but other people might have rheumatoid arthritis or irritable bowel syndrome or celiac disease. And that is the case in my family, so it could be you too. And so we're fortunate to have everything piled on one body. It's like, why? So basically, I'm going to start with my story. I was diagnosed with lupus in 2020. It was May of 2020 when I was given the formal diagnosis. So it was beginning of the pandemic, which was terrifying because we're already panicked thinking, you know, we could die at any moment. And I had to continue working through the pandemic. I didn't have the luxury of being able to stay home. And so it was terrifying, and also being my kid's only living parent. So I immediately, when I got the diagnosis, I was terrified. I thought, am I going to die? How long do I have to live? How serious is this? What am I going to need to do to be able to live as long as possible and stay healthy, and also not, you know, get COVID and die while having to be out in the world? It was absolutely terrifying. The anxiety was crippling. And as with many neurodivergent people, we get fixated, hyperfixated on a subject. And when it's something like this that has to do with your body and a major health condition, of course, you're going to deep dive into every resource you can to try to understand it. Because the only thing I knew about lupus, I had a coworker that I worked with at one time who had lupus, and she would get the butterfly rash on her face. And I feel like most people, when they think of lupus, they think of the rash. And that is not what I have. I do not get the rash at all. So there's many different types of lupus, and mine is systemic. The skin condition one is cutaneous, but you can also get the skin rash with systemic lupus. So my diagnosis came, let me start by saying why I was diagnosed and how. So I had had many health conditions throughout my life that were inexplicable. I had back problems from the time that I was 17 and suffered with sciatica for 20 years. I think some of that might have had to do with Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility, but also just, I don't know, just the luck of the genetics. And I wound up with neuropathy in my legs. And I also had permanent nerve damage in my left leg. I wound up having back surgery in 2010, which really helped, but the nerve damage is permanent. But during that time period, around 2010 when I had my surgery, I started having a lot of other symptoms. I started having peripheral neuropathy, so the numbness and tingling wasn't just in my feet anymore, it was in my hands and moving up my arms. And that was really scary. So during the time of having the back surgery and seeing just the most amazing neurosurgeon who did the surgery after so many years of doctors telling me, you're fine, just take some Advil. And my back would go out to where I couldn't even walk. I mean, it was horrendous. So the peripheral neuropathy was really confusing. And during the course of the next 15 years, I dealt with that a lot and tried to get answers and never did. Saw 3 different neurologists, aside from the neurosurgeon that did my back surgery. And granted, I did have bulging discs and stenosis in my neck, but they all thought that that wasn't enough to be causing the neuropathy. So it was very strange. And they wound up diagnosing me with idiopathic neuropathy, meaning there's no reason for it. And neuropathy and nerves are very hard to, understand. I think there's a lot of research that still needs to be done there, and we don't know so much about nerves. They're so complicated. And so I forgot what I was saying. I'm having serious brain fog because I'm in a lupus flare right now, so we'll get to that later. So the brain fog is real. Also ADHD, like the thought is gone. So I will edit this out, but let me get back on track. Yeah, okay, so the neurologist did some genetic testing at the time, but apparently did not check for autoimmune diseases and lupus. So all of these specialists that I was going to during the next 5 to 7 years, I had so many health conditions that were unexplainable aside from the neuropathy. I also had bouts of vertigo, and I had them in like 2012 when I was going through a divorce and I was under extreme stress, and I had vertigo so bad that I couldn't walk. I would get up to walk and I would fall over because my equilibrium was completely off and the room would be spinning for no reason. Nobody could ever explain that. Fast forward to, I think it was 2017, 2018, I started having vertigo again, and I was a school bus driver, special needs bus, and doctors couldn't find out why. Of course, I got sent to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they said, you know, everything's fine. It's nothing to do with your ears, and nobody could figure out why. I had to quit my job. Obviously, I can't be driving children when I have the spins and I'm dizzy. And it was so bad that I had to use like hiking walking sticks because I was so unsteady and I was afraid of falling, and, you know, shopping carts and, you know, holding on to things. It was bad for a very, very long time. And it was terrifying. And nobody could tell me why. And this is an experience I've had throughout my life, you know, with the neurodivergence and the health conditions. And it's crazy how many times you go to see a doctor and they're like, you know, they gaslight you. They make you think that you're making things up. They make you think that, you know, you're seeking drugs, which wasn't me. Granted, I did take a lot of painkillers when my back would go out, because that was horrendous. But I don't respond well to drugs. So I've been on gabapentin for my neuropathy, and I couldn't handle it. It made me feel so spacey and increased the dizziness. So I haven't been on a prescription drug for a very long time. We'll get into that more later. But so anyway, nobody ever could tell me why I was dizzy all the time, and then it went away, fortunately. But then I started seeing a naturopath, and this naturopath was more thorough and more knowledgeable than any doctor I've ever seen, aside from, like, you know, my neurosurgeon, who was absolutely phenomenal. But just a godsend. And she answered a lot of questions that I had. You know, my hormones were way off, and she gave me a bunch of like herbs and supplements to take to even them out naturally. And I was going through perimenopause, and that really helped, and I was so grateful because no other doctor could help me with that. So I was seeing her, and I had a flare-up, which I now know was a flare-up, but it was one of the most terrifying things that happened to me health-wise. I woke up in the middle of the night, and my hands, my knuckles in my hands and my thumb, my wrists, my elbows, and my shoulders especially were just screaming in pain. And I mean, I've had pain my whole life, and I'm pretty darn tough. This, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't move to get in a comfortable position. It was so scary, and they were red. You could see they were red. They were swollen, and it came out of nowhere. And you know, it was like this for days, and it was just, I could hardly move my fingers. I couldn't sleep because of the pain. And of course, I went in to see my naturopath as quickly as I possibly could. And she immediately said, I think you might have an autoimmune disease. This sounds like autoimmune. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had already been tested for MS because of my neuropathy. They tested me for MS. And that came back negative, thankfully. But so we knew it wasn't MS, but she tested me for autoimmune diseases, and it came back with a marker for possible lupus. And that was what she was thinking from the get-go, is lupus, because of the joint pain and inflammation. So So she's like, okay, well, you do have a marker for autoimmune disease. So now we're going to test you specifically for lupus because I think it's lupus. And it came back positive. So that is how I found out. And the crazy thing is, this was a naturopath. Nobody else could find that or even thought of looking for it. And so, of course, like I said, I was terrified and did so much research. And during the course of the next 6 years, because it's been 6 years already, I can't believe it, I have really gotten to know my personal lupus, my personal brand of lupus. Because everybody's is different. It affects everyone differently. And so it's been kind of trial and error. I knew that from what I've read and what my doctor told me, I knew that stress was a big trigger. And I've had a lot of stress throughout my life, as a lot of neurodivergent people have, and people with trauma. And I think that that is probably why a lot of neurodivergent people have autoimmune diseases, because of the stress we're under. And our bodies, you know, it manifests in health ways, in unhealthy ways, especially when we don't know how to deal with the stress and the trauma. So I knew that stress was one of them. I also knew that certain foods cause inflammation in the body, and when there's inflammation in the body, the lupus flares up. So I learned that refined sugar and especially corn syrup are a major trigger. And it's crazy how quickly that happens to me when I eat those things. So sweeteners that have a lower glycemic index are much safer. At least for me, I can eat them in moderation. Honey, I feel like, is the best. Coconut sugar, good maple syrup, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm sure monk fruit is fine. I don't personally like it. I try to stay away from artificial sweeteners too, like anything like aspartame, saccharin. I feel like that actually will flare me up too. I feel like I'm really sensitive to like chemicals and preservatives and stuff. So the more that I can eat fresh food, lower processed foods, or not processed at all, I think my body seems to do a lot better. Also trying to eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, like avocados and mushrooms and lots of fresh veggies, and you know, what do you call it? I told you I'm having lupus brain fog right now. What are the foods that have a lot of purple in them? Antioxidants. Antioxidants are great. So another trigger is this was a big one. This was a big one for me, guys. UV light. Who knew? And if you know me, you know what an outdoors person I am and how much time I have spent outside, in the ocean, in the mountains, hiking, you know, snowboarding, wakeboarding, surfing. I love being outside. And when I realized that UV was a big trigger for me, it absolutely broke my heart. Like, it's been like the toughest. It's been the toughest thing for me. There's so many things I can't do anymore. And if you deal with this too, I am so sorry. It really sucks. So And the crazy thing is, it's not just sunlight. I'm basically a vampire now. I couldn't handle living in Las Vegas because of all the people and the heat, but I wish I lived somewhere where things were open throughout the night, because I live in a small town where things close early and it's really difficult because I don't feel alive and awake until the sun starts to go down, like dusk. That's when I start to feel good. And like right now, I have my blinds down, I have my curtains mostly drawn, and if it's sunny outside, I do not go out if I can possibly help it. All my yard work is done after the sun goes down, and I still wear, UV protectant clothing and sunblock and hats, and I also have a umbrella that is not just a regular umbrella. It's a UV protected umbrella where it has like an extra layer inside to block the UV rays. And so if I do go on hikes or if I have to be outside, I will bring that umbrella, and it's been a lifesaver. But people are so cruel. People are like, it's not raining. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, have a heart. Do you know that I have lupus? Oh, people are so judgmental. And the thing is, lupus is invisible for most people. For most people who don't have the rash, it's invisible. People can't tell by looking at me that I have a major chronic illness. And people are so cruel, guys. Like, if you see somebody with an umbrella, who even cares why? Like, don't judge people. So, the other thing is I have major sensory issues because of the autism, and so sunblock is like my nemesis. I hate the way it feels. Some of it smells really bad, and I can't stand anything like sticky or greasy on my skin. I have found the one, I'll link it later because I can't remember. I think it's the original. Is that what it's called? That is like the only thing I found so far that I can't actually feel, but it does make me break out. Everything makes me break out. So this is just the joys of my life now. So it's not just the sun. Let me get back to the point I was trying to make. It's not just the sun with its glorious energy and warmth and light that I can't enjoy anymore, which sucks. But this is something I only found out in the last maybe 2 years, and it's getting worse, is the lighting in stores. Did you know this? Did you know that the lighting in stores can be harmful to people who are photosensitive? So if you're at the store and you see somebody wearing sunglasses or a hat or whatever, have a heart. Like, they might be sensitive to lights, because fluorescent lighting is the worst. It gives off UV rays. And there are also some like halogen lights, even LED lights. They're the safer. Incandescent lights, which are the old school lights, which are very energy inefficient and put out a lot of heat. Those are probably, I think those are the safest ones. But all lights give off some kind of UV, I believe, in smaller doses. But some are so bad that I can't go into those stores anymore. So I'll give you an example. The store that bothers me the most is Walmart. Not a store I like anyway. It gives me major sensory overload. I also just don't. Anyway, I'm not gonna bag on them. But if you know, you know. But I realized that whenever I went in there, it would trigger me, and I would get flared up. And the other night, I was out with my friend and I was looking for envelopes. My kids needed some envelopes and I couldn't find them at Safeway, which their lights bother me too if I am in there for a long time without protection, but not nearly as bad. It's much dimmer in there. And they didn't have it at Walgreens, which their lights are awful too. They didn't have it at Walgreens. And so then I went to Walmart and I was like, it's only going to be for a little bit. I didn't have any protection on. It was late at night. It was dark. I didn't have any sunblock on. I didn't have a hat. I didn't have my UV protectant. Oh no. Excuse me. I didn't have my UV protectant zip up hoodie. And so I went in there thinking, I'll be okay, it'll be quick. And guess what? That was on Monday. Today is Thursday. And I have not left the house since then because I have been so flared up. This has never happened to me before. I think it's because in my life right now I'm under a lot of stress and a lot of transition, and I feel like when you're there, your baseline is so much lower and any little thing will flare you up. So I was just starting to feel better and I went in there, and I mean, the dizziness was so bad, and just I felt that very same night, an hour or so later, I was in the car with my friend and we were wanting to do something fun, and it just started hitting me like a ton of bricks, where the nausea, I felt like I was going to throw up. I was super dizzy and like my head was spinning. I was getting a horrible headache, and I was like, oh no, I know what this is. And now I know what it is, and I knew exactly what it was. Not at the moment that it happened. I didn't know what the trigger was, because that's also, having autism. I don't know what I'm feeling at the time, and it wasn't until it was either later that night when I was home or the next day where I was like, duh, it was Walmart. That's why I don't go to Walmart. I do not go to Walmart anymore, period. And I knew better. But I was out with my friend. I was having a good time. Well, I'll be fine. Well, you know what? That was a wake-up call. That was a lesson. So in my house, I have very dim lighting. I have, salt lamps and little tiny, fairy lights and things. And I use very few actual lights in my house. And it's something I've learned that I have to do because they set me off. And there are a lot of jobs that I cannot do because of the lighting in the place. And it's getting worse the older I get. So I think that was all of the triggers that I wanted to talk about. Stress, sugar, certain foods. If I eat a lot of carbs, obviously those turn into sugars in your body. And also alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol is really bad. And I drink very little. In moderation every now and then. I seem to do okay, but I can't have more than like 2 drinks because, and it's sad because I love, not that I love to drink for the, the buzz, I used to, but I love the flavor of alcohol. I love mezcal and absinthe and really peaty scotches, like, gin, beer, cider if it's not sweet. There's so many things I love to drink and I can't really drink anymore. Very, very little. So that's just another thing I've had to give up. So I want to talk about my symptoms, because symptoms, this is where there's a lot of common misconceptions. For people who do know about lupus, they don't realize what all it can affect. And it's insane when you start to learn about lupus and what it can do to the body. So I'm here to tell you what it does in my body, and I would love to know if you have similar experiences and symptoms, or if you have ones that are different. I would love to hear like what it does to you. So first off, the dizziness, which I've already talked about. I get extreme vertigo, and I'm talking like if you've never had just vertigo out of the blue, you may have been drunk at one time in your life where the room was spinning. That is how it feels. It is such a scary feeling. You feel like you don't have any control of your body. So dizziness is one of the main things that happens to me, and I'm still very dizzy right now. You know, my flare-up has been since Monday night, and it's still pretty bad right now. I can walk, it's not that bad, but I'm very dizzy. So the dizziness, the neuropathy. So whenever I get flared up, I always have peripheral neuropathy, and I believe I always will, because it's been like this since like 2010. And it gets a lot worse whenever I get flared up. So my peripheral neuropathy, it feels like I'm wearing gloves and socks all the time. It feels like there's something on my hands, like a barrier where I can't feel things as easily. And it also just feels like there's something touching me, which is not a good feeling when you have sensory sensitivities. So also like tingliness, like when your leg falls asleep and you get that tingly, like little ants biting you feeling, like that, all the time. When it's flared up, it's a lot worse. Sometimes it's so bad that it actually hurts and burns. And it also, they feel numb, like way less sensation. And my limbs can also feel very heavy, like they're made out of lead. And I feel like I can't move my arm. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic, you guys. This is legit. This is just what happens to me. Legs, arms, heavy, heavy, heavy. So that's what my peripheral neuropathy looks like. Oh, also very weak. When this happens, I have like no strength. I can't open jars, which I already have a hard time with anyway. But like the weakness is extreme. So the other thing is hair loss. Ever since the lupus began, I started losing my hair, and I didn't know why. Hair loss is a common thing for people with lupus. So I already had thin hair, but I used to be able to grow it really long, and I used to have a lot more of it, and it's thinned a lot. And there's really nothing I can do about that. That's just the way it is. So, severe brain fog. They'll actually call it lupus fog, because when you're flared up, it is literally like there's fog in your brain. Like you cannot focus. You're very, very forgetful. You can't concentrate. You can't put thoughts together. A few days ago, when the flare was at its worst, or maybe it was 2 days ago, I couldn't think. I mean, I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't think. And it's really scary. So that's a big one. I also will feel, and I don't know if this has to do with the neuropathy, because, you know, the lupus definitely affects my nerves, my peripheral nervous system. But I feel like the brain fog and the neuropathy tie in to make my head feel like it's not connected to my body. it feels like it's a balloon floating above my head, and I can't feel it, and I don't feel like it's connected to my body. I feel like it's hard to explain, but it feels like it's floating above me and it's not connected. And it's maybe partly because of the dizziness and lightheadedness, the whole combination of all these sensations. The other thing I feel that could be related to the neuropathy, because it really affects my nerves, and I wanted to ask you guys if, and I'm sorry I'm saying guys, it's not a gender thing. I hope, because I am non-binary, so maybe I'll stop saying that, because I don't mean it as a gender thing, and I don't want to misgender anyone. But you all, are there any of you that have this sensation? And this is literally the most disconcerting to me. Disconcerting, the most bothersome. It feels like every cell in my body is vibrating. Like, it is the worst feeling. It's almost like electricity and like a physical hum and a sensation of everything just vibrating, and the anxiety that causes me is severe. It kind of reminds me of sick dreams I used to have when I was a kid. These recurring sick dreams. And there I was in this white room where there was no visible like walls, seams. It was just like all one color white, and there would be this hum like a machine, and I could feel it in my body. And that is how it feels. My whole entire body feels like it's vibrating. It's horrible. Every time that happens to me, I literally feel like I'm dying. And again, I'm not being dramatic. I'm just saying it is a really scary feeling. And I've never heard anybody talk about this. Do any of you feel this? Is it just me? Whew. So, the nausea and digestive problems. When I'm flared up, it's really hard for me to eat, and almost everything upsets my stomach, and I get, the squirts. And I also just feel super nauseated. And the dizziness doesn't help that. I feel like the two go hand in hand a lot, but I always have digestive issues. I'm very sensitive to a lot of different foods, but when my lupus is flared up, it's horrendous. It's really, really bad. Just stomach pain and bloating, and bleh. I just feel yucky. I feel sick. I'm also utterly exhausted, and this is a common one, I think, for people with lupus, is the extreme fatigue. And I'm not talking, oh, I'm tired, it feels like I just ran a marathon, or oh, I'm tired because I haven't slept in days, or oh, I'm tired because, whatever. This fatigue feels like you can't get out of bed. You can't move. You feel like you need to literally stay in bed for as long as you feel that way, because you have no energy. And if you try to get up and do something, if you go to the bathroom, you're getting back to that bed as quickly as possible to fall into it, because you have no energy. All of the life force has been sucked out of your body, and you are just like a shell of a human being with nothing left inside. And sleep does not help. You don't feel rested after you sleep. It is just insanely, it's debilitating. It is absolutely debilitating. So, another thing that happens with me, I'm not sure if you know this, but lupus can attack any organ in your body. People get nephritis in their kidneys, kidney failure, your lungs. It can affect your lungs, and it definitely does affect mine. I get like wheezy and oh my god, it's like I made myself do that. Excuse me. The power of suggestion. I get wheezy, and I feel like I can't breathe, shortness of breath. But the main thing for me is my heart. And back in 2016, way before my lupus diagnosis, I started having heart palpitations and an arrhythmia, and my heart rate would shoot up sky high for no reason, and I was terrified. The feeling, I felt like my heart was fluttering and doing flips in my chest, and it was scary, and I didn't know why. And now I know it was the lupus before I was even diagnosed. But so my heart, when I'm flared up, it'll just randomly, I think they're called my particular one, because they did I went to I think it was University of Washington or Children's. No, not Children's. Why would I go to Children's? My kids went to Children's for their heart palpitations. By the way, they weren't even diagnosed with POTS. They were having all these issues, and the doctors didn't even know. They were just like, they have POTS. They have POTS. Why didn't they check them for this? I swear. It's like we have to do most of the work ourselves. So anyway, I digress. I went, this was before my naturopath. I got sent to, I think it was the University of Washington, and they put one of those Zio patches on me. It's like a Holter monitor, but it's a newer fancy one that's like wireless. And I wore it for 9 days, and it measures the whole entire time. It measures your heart rate, and there's a button on it that you can push anytime you feel something funny, like heart palpitation or whatever, and then you can trigger that and then see if it corresponds with an event. And so mine were supraventricular tachycardia, and then I also had ventricular tachycardia, and I think one is upper heart and one is lower. I don't remember, but basically my heart is so affected by my flare-ups, and it can cause heart attack. It's scary. You have to take care of yourself and try to prevent flare-ups as much as possible, and eat healthy and all that, which I do. But the doctors, the specialists, the cardiologists said, oh, we don't know why this is happening, but we're not too worried about it because it's, the bottom of your heart. And, I think I would have also my heart rate would go up to like 180 per minute. I'm just like driving in the car or something. It was really strange. I would have like 44 beats per minute at like 5:30 a.m. when I'm sleeping, and then at like 2:30 in the afternoon, my heart rate would go up to like 180, 280, 180, just randomly. I'm not even exercising or anything. So it felt like it was beating on my chest, and then I felt like I couldn't breathe, and it felt like a panic attack, but it was just my heart tripping out because my lupus was attacking my heart. So that happens to me a lot, and that's really, really scary. I talked about the painful swollen joints because that is why, oh, my stomach. Can you hear my stomach growling? So that is why I got my diagnosis, is because, that is another thing that happens, that my knuckles, my joints, it's so tender to even touch it. They get really, really tender. It happens in my spine, mostly my neck. It happens in my shoulders, my knees, anywhere where I have a joint, like my feet, my hips, but I feel like it, also my jaw, oh my jaw, but I feel like it is most noticeable in my hands, because your hands, you're using them constantly, and so every little thing you do with your hand, you can feel it when your joints are swollen and painful. It's really bad, and it's also debilitating. It's really hard. I was a server and a bartender for many years, and the pain, just having to push through and work through, it was horrible. So I'm going to talk about what I do to stay healthy, and then I will go into some suggestions on where to get more information, and if you want to also donate to the cause, because we need far more research. There's so much that's not understood yet with lupus. So what do? I avoid the sun, unfortunately. And it's so bad that even if I'm wearing sunblock and UV protected clothing and all that stuff, I cannot drive during the day, especially in the summertime when it's sunny a lot. If say I wanted to go to another town nearby, and I have to drive toward the sun, and the sun is low enough to where it's going to be shining on me, I can't go, because it will mess me up. So I try to time my trips. So the other day I went to another town this way, and it was like an hour drive, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave at like 4:30 or 5 in the evening, so that the sun is lower and it'll be behind me, so it won't be shining on me. And so I drove away from the sun, and then I stayed in the town and did some things until the sun was low enough to where as I was driving back, it wouldn't be shining on my face. And those are the things that I literally have to do. It's not a luxury, it is an absolute necessity, because a flare-up is debilitating, and you don't want to have them if possible. Oh, and the other thing is, I forgot about another symptom: fevers. I get fevers all the time when I'm flared up, and neuralgia with the fever, where your skin hurts. Yeah, I get low-grade fevers for no reason other than my immune system is attacking itself. My immune system is attacking my body, I should say, not attacking itself. So anyway, so avoiding the sun, avoiding lighting in stores. Know which stores have lighting that bothers you. Some stores are worse than others. I heard that Walmart has like a sensory friendly hour, but it's early in the morning, which I can't handle mornings, so I can't take advantage of that. Also don't like Walmart anyway, but find the stores that don't bother you and wear protective clothing. Wear sunscreen every time you go out, because even if it's cloudy, I think it's between, what is it? It depends on the time of year, but I think it's like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is when the UV rays are at their worst. So try to avoid that. But yeah, find the stores that work for you. Wear the sunblock all the time. Wear hats. Wear I have like a UV blocking hoodie that's light fabric, that's supposed to block 90% of UVA, UVB rays, and that really helps me, even though I hate the way it feels. Like, you do what you got to do. So I do that, and that is a big one. Also avoiding the sugar and inflammatory foods. foods that are rich in antioxidants are really helpful. Basically, yeah, reducing inflammation in the body. Avocados are great, lots of leafy greens and fresh vegetables and fruit. Anything that's really dark in color, such as blueberries and blackberries and things like that. And also avoiding, another thing to avoid that is, it's different for everybody, but for me, the nightshades will flare me up. So unfortunately, tomatoes, garlic, eggplant, peppers, and I love spicy food, but I try to do that in moderation as well because the nightshades do flare me up. So yeah, learn what works for your body as far as healthy foods, keeping inflammation down. I've also heard recently that oats are really good, and I don't always feel motivated to eat oatmeal, but I'm going to try to find other ways to do it. Foods rich in omegas, so like chia seeds, flax seeds, oils, healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oil, yeah, nuts, I eat a lot of nuts. So that's really helpful, but the supplements that I take that have really, going back to that, which I wanted to start with, is the big one for me are medicinal mushrooms. I'm not talking magic mushrooms that make you trip. I'm talking about mushrooms that are like adaptogenic and super duper good for your immune system. Mushrooms are miraculous, like absolutely miraculous. So I take STAMETS 7, which is a blend of 7 different mushrooms. And it's a lot cheaper if you buy it in the powdered form, and then I make my own capsules, or you can even just like mix it in your food or something. But Paul Stamets is like, you know, the OG mushroom daddy, and it's one of his products, and it has helped me more than I can even tell you. So, and I try to rotate where I'm not taking it all the time, but I'll take it for like a year and then I'll stop for, you know, a few months. And anyway, I'll also take turkey tail mushrooms, and I think chaga, reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane. Lion's mane is really good for brain function, but do your research on medicinal mushrooms and utilize that because they're natural, there's no side effects, and they heal your body and they help your immune system and lower inflammation, and just, they're miraculous. I also take turmeric, which is really good to reduce inflammation, and ginger. A lot of spices, if you cook with a lot of spices, they're really good for your body, just naturally. Yeah, like, what do you call it? Cardamom, ginger, cinnamon, clove. Yeah, cook with spices, they're great for you. And if you can grind them fresh, even better. Nutmeg. And so I also take ashwagandha, which is an adaptogen. It's good for stress. And I take sea buckthorn, which is a form of omega-3, I believe, that's really difficult to get from food. It also helps if you're older to like moisturize your skin because you don't produce as much collagen as you get older and your skin gets kind of crepey and dry. I also have dry eyes, so it helps with that. That wasn't a fart. That was I'm on one of those bouncy balls. It rubbed on the thing behind me. It sounded like I farted. There's nothing wrong with farting though, just saying. It's natural. What else do I take? Astaxanthin, and I take a form that's from algae grown and farmed in Hawaii, and so I'm allergic to shellfish, so I can't take like krill based. I think that astaxanthin can be from krill as well, and I think krill oil is really good for you as well as like fish oil and stuff. But I also take MSM for inflammation, and that helps so much. A lot of these things you have to take regularly, not just, every now and then. And please consult your doctor before you take these, because you could have interactions with other things. Always, always consult your doctor before you take supplements. I also take boswellia, which is frankincense. It's good for pain and inflammation. And vitamin D, obviously, because I can't go in the sun. It's super important. So I take vitamin D, and I take about 6,000 IUs in the summertime and about 10,000 in the wintertime. And also B12 is super important. And I think there's some others, but I can't remember them right now. So what I will do is, like I said, I'll list it all below in a comment or something, or in my description, so that you know what I take, and then you can ask your doctor about it. Also, magnesium is really good for helping you sleep and relaxing you at nighttime. So yeah, and then on to giving you some resources, or at least one resource that I really trust, and also some facts about lupus that people probably don't realize. So lupus, 9 out of 10 people with lupus are females or AFAB people. And if you don't know what AFAB means, it means assigned female at birth. So it could be a trans person who is like me, non-binary or trans mask or whatever that may be. So yeah, 9 out of 10 of us are AFAB, which is crazy. And another thing is, out of those people, it affects certain ethnicities much more often and much more drastically. So African American people, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans, Hispanic Latinas, Alaskan Natives, Canadian Natives, and I'm not sure if that applies to Aboriginal people as well. I'm assuming. Oh my gosh, I need to eat. I'm sorry. So, I mean, the cards are already stacked against a lot of these groups, and we have this to deal with it too, and it makes me wonder if it has to do with generational trauma manifesting in our bodies. And when we don't deal with the trauma, it can manifest in ways that we don't like. No bueno. And I'm not saying that you're at fault because you're not dealing with your trauma, because it's nobody's fault they have trauma. And dealing with your trauma isn't going to erase the damage that's been done to your body either. I'm just saying, I feel like there's a correlation. So, there's a lot that's misunderstood about lupus, and they're still learning so much. So, the research needs funding, and the source that I would like to share with you that is a lifesaver, and I trust 100%, is the Lupus Foundation of America, and their website is lupus.org. And all of the information that I have gotten that resonates so hard, and like more more informative than anywhere else I've ever searched, anything else I've ever read. And when you start diving into their website, there's so many layers and there's so many resources. So just dive deep in there, and they have information on every type of lupus, and, you know, suggestions and talking about treatments. I don't take any prescription drugs because I'm afraid of immunosuppressants, and I react really strongly to prescription drugs. So I have been able to manage mine naturally, but some people need it. Like if it started attacking my heart to the point where, you know, I was at risk of having a heart attack or something, I would have to go on an immunosuppressant to save my life. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying I'm going to avoid it as long as I can. But they have so many amazing resources, and they also do a lot of research, and you can donate there. They also do fundraising events like walks, where you can walk to raise awareness and money for lupus research. So thank you, Lupus Foundation of America, for everything you do, and please visit their site. And so to kind of wrap things up, whether you have lupus, someone you love has lupus, or nobody you know has lupus, I hope that this video has been informative, and I hope that it's helped you understand a little more about it, what it can look like invisibly, what it can do to the body, and all of the crazy triggers that you know, that can affect it. So I would love it if you commented below about your experience. How are you connected to lupus, if at all? And if you have it, what does it look like to you? What are your symptoms and triggers, and how do you deal with it? How long has it been? What are your struggles? Do you have any tips or tricks that you would like to share? I think that would be great if we could all share in the comments below about our experiences and our suggestions, because we're all different, and there's not a lot of information out there on these things, and it's really scary. So if we can all just build a community of people like us, I think it'll be really helpful to each and every one of us to not feel alone. It can be very isolating to have a major illness like this. It's chronic. It doesn't go away. It can go into remission, but it never goes away. And when you also are neurodivergent, you already feel, you know, very isolated, and it can feel very alone and very depressing. A lot of us struggle with depression. And I just want to let everyone out there know that you're not alone, and I see you, and I love you. I'm sending you so much love, so much healing energy, and thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, please like this video, all the things that will help my audience grow so that more people can see my content out there, because I just really want to help people. I really want to be able to have these discussions. All right, until next time.